It is 6:01, and I'm going to go ahead and call to order this regular meeting of the Anchorage School Board. It is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. In the boardroom, I have myself, Elisa Vacalis, Board Member Alicia Hildy, Board Member Margot Bellamy, Board Member Dave Donnelly.
Is your sound on this? If you could turn it off on this.
I have it on mute.
Oh.
Hopefully, I don't know if that helps. And I have Dr. Bishop also in the boardroom with us. In our Zoom room, we have Board Member Andy Holloman, Board Member Star Marcette, and I don't see Board Member Mitchell, but I know she was having technical difficulties earlier, so we'll note when she joins us again. We also have our student representative, Emily Hickox, is also with us tonight. We do have a quorum. We are good to go. Next up is the flag salute, and I've asked Member Donnelly to please do that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we begin, I would like to acknowledge with gratitude the Dena'ina people, both past and present, who have lived on these lands since long before Anchorage was here. May we all be good stewards of these lands. Chinan. And Miss Emily. Emily.
My name is Emily Hickox, and I am the student representative to this board. I was elected to serve through the Student Advisory Board. My votes are advisory only, and I offer a student voice to the body. We would like to welcome you to our meeting and thank you for attending and supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and this board. The board thanks students, parents, teachers, staff, school business partners, and the entire community for your investment in our district with your time, your talent, and your tax dollars.
Next up is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
I have a first and a second. Are there any modifications or adjustments requested by board members? Seeing none, is there any opposition to the agenda as written? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Next up in the agenda is our Student Advisory Board report. And Emily, did you have an update for us today?
Not too much to update you guys on. We have our meeting tomorrow. We're really looking forward to hear about how everyone's return to school has gone. And then we will also be discussing the new anti-racism and equity policies with President Vacalis. So we're super excited about that. And then also we are going to have more elections. So hopefully next meeting I will have some more news.
Thank you. For those in the audience or out in the community, attached to our board docs agenda is our board conference and committee reports. Our finance committee, governance committee, and our communications committee all have reports out there, as well as anything that was submitted by board members for community outreach updates. Next up in the agenda is public testimony. I'm going to read an almost brief statement. The board welcomes public testimony. We value public comment as it ensures that we remain aware of public thoughts, ideas, and concerns, and informs our decision-making process. There is a 1-hour time slot at the beginning of the meeting. Testimony in excess of 1 hour will be heard at the end of the meeting or may be submitted in writing. Each person will have 3 minutes to testify. When 30 seconds remain, a chime will ring to inform you so that you can finish your sentence. Additionally, it is not our practice that board members answer questions or engage in discussion with members of the public. This is your time to speak and our time to listen. The board will consider all information shared by the public, and when deemed necessary, issues raised in testimony will be referred to the administration for follow-up. We are going to kick this off. We have Three folks, or the first three are in person with us today. Oh, Board Member Mitchell has joined us also. She's in the attendee side, but she is here with us, so thank you. So our first speaker is Daryl Mitchell. Not here? All right. Our next speaker will be Dustin Sherman. Okay, 3 minutes. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And as you can see, this time I came with some help. So welcome to Diamond High School team, bowling team. So I'm here tonight along with the two teams for the high school bowling program to hopefully get a few answers. And actually, Mr. Donnelly had answered a few of those questions. So I want to thank him for that. And thanks for last night bringing up, or the last meeting for bringing up the question whether or not the kids and the parents had the options of being able to go down without representing their schools. I appreciate you doing that. So I did listen whenever I left. I also want to thank Elisa for reaching out to me after that meeting as well. And so some of the conflicts that we're getting is we had gotten an email from one of the high schools, and then I spoke to another board member on Thursday night to make sure that everything was good for them to be able to go down. Apparently, some of the restrictions from COVID-19 has been lifted, and now they're able to go down. Although one of the board members that I had spoken to apparently wasn't informed that was possible. So it looks like everything is back on track from what I gather. So the high school bowling team is, the teams are here to not only thank you for the jobs that you do, but to give you a little bit of enlightenment on what the sport of bowling means to them. One of the things that I want to bring up is the fact that we are having a hard time in the bowling community being able to promote the sport of bowling to the schools themselves. We're not allowed to go in and hang things on the bulletin boards and promote the sport to build the sport. We know by seeing the kids and stuff coming into the bowling center, we have a lot of kids that are inquiring about it, but there's no information that are available at the school. So we want to try and change that. These kids, we've had bowling programs to where they've had 60, 80 kids sign up to bowl this year. And obviously with COVID in the mix, it's been a lot less. We want to try and build that back up. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities for these kids whenever they get out there. And not every kid wants to play football. Not every kid wants to play basketball. This is something that a lot of kids that wouldn't normally play another sport would be allowed to do. It's both individual and team. So there's a lot of plus points to the sport of bowling. So that's pretty much all I had. I do want to thank the members who had reached out to me and inquired about some stuff. So keep doing the jobs that you're doing, advocating for the kids, because we really do appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing who ends up being on the board after the election this year. I'm sure there'll be some new faces, so I'm sure we'll be back. With that said, I'm done. Again, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Next up, speaker number 3 in person, Garrett Plum. You have 3 minutes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak today. I just want to say how important this sport is to me. Growing up, bowling is just really important. I grew up bowling with all these people behind me, and to go down to Ohio and bowl in this tournament with them, I mean, it would mean a lot. And a lot of them, or some of them, won't have an opportunity to bowl this tournament again. So if we were all able to go down there and bowl it together, it would mean a lot to all of us. And I'm sure it would mean a lot to our parents too. Putting out the sport, especially representing Alaska, which is something we don't get to do as much as Alaskan bowlers. And bowling a big tournament like this, it's good competition, and it's a chance to make new friends, because there's not many of us up here. And that's all I really got. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you for coming tonight. Next up on the phone, speaker number 4 is Roslyn Weish. Roslyn, are you on the line with us tonight?
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you. Thank you for calling in. You have 3 minutes and the floor is yours.
Hey, so it's me once again, Roslyn. I am the VP for the Alaska Coalition of BIPOC Educators, and I basically just wanted to talk about how important the equity policy is to me, as well as those children on the East Side and all over the world. Undercover racism is a problem. We need to stop being a part of that problem and become the change. In 2021, this goes out to everyone of all nationalities, acting as if there is nothing wrong. And I think that all children that go to school in the ASD district are being taught the same or given the same opportunities. They need to be. I have heard teachers ask about, how do I teach these kids on the East Side? I have heard teachers say that they're dumbing their ways down because these kids just can't learn. I have heard teachers say, I didn't push myself because these children won't appreciate it. Children can't appreciate what they are being taught, and they can't appreciate what they're not being taught. Children can push themselves if they're always being referred through, children can push themselves if they're always being referred through SST and put on replacement curriculum. And lastly, when are their teachers going to be held accountable for not? I always heard the word grace so much, I thought I was at church. But at what point is the word grace being abused? Instead of getting on here, being in your feelings and saying I'm not a racist, or we're not racist, or we're not teaching this and that, let me tell you how you can help. You should go to Facebook and join us, the Alaska Coalition of BIPOC Educators. You could educate yourself on your own personal biases. Next, you could build stronger relationships with your BIPOC colleagues, improve the culture and climate of your schools, use your privilege to speak up and argue against the racial and social injustice we encounter frequently, both in and outside of the workplace. Advocate for your BIPOC employees when it may seem that they're being overlooked or they don't feel comfortable speaking up. And don't depend on the school district to teach you. Go out and educate yourself. With the reality of what's going on in America, this isn't just a Black issue. This is an everybody issue. That's all I have to say. The equity policy means a lot to me and others, as well as the instructional policy. And I can't wait till we get this passed. And there's a couple town hall meetings coming up, as well as get out and vote. These 4 seats mean something. Don't just sit by and not. We need to educate everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up in person, and apologies if I don't say this right, Anthony Van Kuenberg.
It's Van Cowenberg, but it's close enough. I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity for me to go down to Ohio to participate in this tournament. I have been bowling since I was in kindergarten and have been getting better and better along the way. And I've been very serious into bowling. I've even gotten a $1,000 scholarship and other scholarship money through bowling. So being able to have the opportunity to partake in an experience like this is overwhelming, and I am overjoyed that I get to have this experience. And being a senior, this is my last opportunity to have this type of experience with my friends behind me. So being able to share this experience with them is also just something that is very heartwarming for me, especially considering that I've been bowling with some of these people behind here for many, many years. And basically that's all that I needed to say. It's just to thank you guys, tell you that, and yeah. So.
Thank you. Next up, with the same apologies in advance, Elias Sargento.
Hi, it's Elias Sargento. Good evening. I am a junior on Diamond and on the varsity bowling team for 3 years now. I just want to say thank you for letting me speak and this opportunity for allowing us to go down there to Ohio to compete on a national level competition. I've been bowling for about 10 years now, and this is something I have spent a lot of time and effort on. It's something I am passionate in. Through bowling, I have been able to appreciate the competition and understand the value of sportsmanship, leadership, and friendship. This sport has provided me many friendships that I have will probably never be able to get otherwise. I have made the closest and probably the best friendships with the people behind me. And it allows us to compete, one-on-one, allows us to hone our skills, and lets us compete together as a team. And that's really all I got, but thank you for allowing me to speak again. And I don't have any other words to express how excited I am to go down and compete and make memories with my friends and my teammates. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And seeing that you are the last speaker, I'm just want to say good luck to all of you guys. Very, very good represent for the district. Who?
Is Maya here?
Maya?
Is she here?
Is Maya here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We thought you were doing it in writing. I'm so sorry. We have one more in person. Thank you. I had a different note. Maya, you have 3 minutes.
So my name is Maya Aropoulos, and I'm a sophomore on the Diamond team. So I'm actually the youngest one here, but I've been on this varsity team for 2 years, and bowling means a lot to me. I've been bowling since I was 7, so like 8 years. And one thing a lot of people don't know is that there's a lot of scholarship money in bowling. For Alaska kids, it's harder to get because we can't go down to these national tournaments a lot. So this one means a lot, especially to people like Anthony, because he's a senior and we don't get this opportunity a lot. So I just want to thank you guys for letting us go down to do this tournament because it means a lot. And it's a big deal for all of us because I know that like Anthony, he will never get to do this again. And I can tell it means a lot to him. And it means a lot to me too, because this is a great way to be seen by colleges and be able to use that scholarship money. So I just wanted to say thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Next up, speaker number 8 not on the telephone. I don't see him. No, I'll keep an eye out for him. Speaker number 9 is Megan Holton. Megan, are you on the line with us tonight? Megan, are you there? Megan, we'll go ahead.
Are you able to hear me?
Now we can.
Hello?
Thank you so much. You have 3 minutes and the floor is yours.
Sorry about that. Okay, thanks for allowing me to speak. I'm speaking in favor of the proposed anti-racism policy and instructional equity policy. And I had the opportunity to testify about a month and a half ago about my experience as a white student in Anchorage School District many years ago, and how in retrospect it would have been better to leave school with the tools for talking about race and racism in its many forms. And I feel like this policy will be good and it will create that opportunity for students of all colors and all races, because it will create a culture within the school setting and expectations for colleagues to talk in everyday interactions about how to combat racism, and also have a concrete framework for addressing the direct experiences of racism that occurs. And it's important to have a policy in place that says explicitly that that's something that the school district values. So that's what I talked about last time, but this time I thought I'd come back to share a couple, 2 case studies with data, because I remember last time I testified, the school district the school board was showing a bunch of numbers, and I know ultimately one of the things you're interested in is measuring those outcomes and improving educational outcomes for Anchorage School District students. So I just have two examples of places that put in anti-racism and instructional equity policies in place and saw positive benefits from them. So one of them is the Albemarle School District in Charlottesville, Virginia, and they put their policy into place in 2018. And then one of the tools they used was a culturally responsive teaching program for fifth grade students. And that they found that the students who were taught by teachers who were certified in this approach doubled their pass rate between the 2016-2017 school year. And then the other example is from a high school, which is relevant to my experience. When I went to West, I was tracked into a bunch of the AP classes, and there were fewer students of color in those classes, and there was not near the representation in those classes as the school as a whole. And this is an example of institutional racism, and I feel like a clear policy would support discussion around that, but there's hope. So one of the examples I found was from Evanston Township High School, which is outside of Chicago. And in 2010, they changed their curriculum for the incoming freshman year students. So rather than tracking people in humanities and biology classes, they didn't do tracking anymore. And then over the next 5 years, they saw a 61% increase in the number of African-American students taking AP courses, with 91% of them earning a 3 or higher on the AP exam. And then there's a similar benefit for Latinx courses, a 48% increase in Latinx students taking AP classes, with 51% earning a 3 or higher in AP exam. So I just offer these two examples, as an example of the concrete data outcomes. So I believe there's obviously a moral reason that we should have anti-racism policy.
Thank you so much for the testimony tonight. That is your 3 minutes. Thank you so much. Next up is speaker number 10, Frank Rizzo. Frank, if you could *6 to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can. Thank you for joining us. You have 3 minutes and the floor is yours.
Well, thanks for the opportunity given me to speak. I want to talk about your anti-racism and equity policy. I understand that everyone has great intentions. We all judge people based on the content of the character and not the color of your skin. But these anti-racism and equity policies create discrimination, segregation, and lawsuits from educators and faculty members, specifically from people of color who are educators. So I just want to say, parents and faculty who are listening in, go read the books on the district's reading list on the equity resource tab. It's like 5 tabs in. You got to click through 5 of these pages to get in there. Go read these books. And I hope that all of you on the school board read these recommended books on that list too. So on that same equity resource page, there is a tab that states, how do racists work with NYC school communities? Well, I'll tell you it doesn't. Because today, Columbia University announced they're offering racially segregated graduating classes. That's where we're going. That's where these policies go. If you want to know what they ultimately lead, I would recommend everyone research what happened at Evergreen University in 2017 in Washington. These policies led to a student body meltdown and riots for days. That's where these go. You can go to YouTube, listen to exactly what happened, listen to what these kids are saying and their attitude. I know, like I said, you have the best intentions, but this is going to have the opposite outcome. So for lawsuits, we've got Karen Ames, a 30-year educator in the Bronx, who's got a $150 million lawsuit against New York City schools. In an implicit bias training, she was sharing her Jewish, Polish grandparents' Holocaust experience. She was told to shut up and check herself because this training's for Black and brown people of color only. Seems like these anti-racist policies has a anti-Semitism problem. The same Bronx school district got a Dominican American, Rafael Espino. She's got a $30 million lawsuit against New York City schools. She was told she wasn't Black enough. She wouldn't do these Wakanda salutes from that Black Panther movie. She was let go 1 year before she had her pension. So if there's any faculty in here, keep that in mind. In California, we got Asian Americans in Cupertino. The school is 60% Asian. These parents are calling the school wondering why are they teaching their 8-year-olds to deconstruct their race and identity and rate their power and privilege. That's where this goes. The Oregon Department of Education last month put out a course titled A Pathway to Equitable Math Instruction, a training course for educators, where it says, if you ask your students to show your work, that's white supremacy.
I'm sorry.
Showing your grades is racist. That's where this is going.
Frank, thank you for your testimony. Your 3 minutes are up. Next up is speaker number 11, Judy Norton-Elledge. Judy, if you can *6 to unmute.
Hi, my name is Judy Elledge, and I'm a candidate for school board, and there have been many concerns and questions about equity in ASD, so I started researching. As a retired educator with over 40 years of experience in ASD in rural Alaska, I am very concerned with some of the policies being discussed in ASD on the issue of equity. Even more alarming are some of the books under the harassment policy referenced on the district website. The 2 books on racism are extremely alarming. Neither seem to be well researched. They both are poorly argued, sloppily researched, inefficiently fact-checked, and occasionally self-contradictory. As a result, both fail to live up to their promise, ultimately teaching the reader less about how to be anti-racist than about how to be anti-intellectual. It is also interesting that the authors have become multimillionaires while at the same time stating that capitalism is racist. I guess you're only racist if you're not the person making the money. The author of How to Be an Anti-Racist wrote as an undergraduate that white people were fending off racial extinction using psychological brainwashing and the AIDS virus. The book White Fragility is a term used in the book. White fragility is a term used in the title of a book called White Fragility. This definition says that a white person voices any disagreement such as disagreement, and it is categorized as argumentation. And it's assumed to be fueled by anger, fear, or guilt. Therefore, it is one's white fragility that causes him or her to disagree. On the other hand, if you don't voice anything, he or she remains silent or chooses to exit the conversation, this is due to white fragility. This means that whatever one does, he is termed fragile unless, of course, the individual agrees openly and submits to the label. All this considered, the term white fragility undermines productive conversations about race relations in our country. And it's a conversation we desperately need to be able to have. We need conversations on race relations in our society. And I, for one, would be glad to have that conversation with anyone who is willing to have a civil one. Regardless, both of these books should be removed immediately, since neither seem to be based on actual evidence but someone's opinion. I have spent most of my career working with Hispanic students on the border and in villages in Alaska. These books only silence discussion, and I ask for their removal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is speaker number 12, Celeste Hodge Browden. Celeste, if you can *6 to unmute and join the conversation. Celeste, can you hear us?
Hi.
Perfect. Thank you. You have 3 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Bishop. My name is Celeste Hodge Growden, and I am the president and CEO of the Alaska Black Caucus. As shared many times, our organization advocates for Black people in the areas of health, economics, justice, and education. Thank you so much for the work completed thus far on the anti-racism and instructional equity policies. I urge you to please vote in support of both of these policies that would finally allow the district to begin working intentionally and boldly to eradicate systemic racism and its traumatic impact from policies, trainings, lack of promotional opportunities, curriculum, teaching, discipline, and more. These policies are something that is desperately needed and so long overdue. Why are these policies so critically important? These policies will translate into Anchorage School District programs and practices that will eradicate injustice. What does this mean exactly? Black and brown children and other children of color will no longer be subjected to forms of racism, as these policies will remove disparities in student discipline rates. More kids of color will get opportunities to move into advanced placement classes, something that is currently a rare occurrence. We will see more diversity within gifted services and in hiring and employee training. I am so looking forward to the day when teachers within the Anchorage School District will reflect the diversity of our community, and Black and brown children can finally see more people that look like them in leadership roles. In other words, they can see themselves as a teacher, a principal, because they will see the teachers and principals around them that look like them. This means so much to me as an individual who attended the Anchorage School District decades ago, and I have very limited memory of Black and brown teachers and principals, but vivid memories of Black custodians. Why is that? Maybe that's why I didn't become a teacher or principal. We all know we need these policies because, as shared, racism runs throughout the Anchorage School District, as you can see within its own statistics. I also understand these policies are being vetted more than any other policies in the history of ASD, receiving more reviews and opportunities for public comment. Why is that? We just can't get around it. It's mind-boggling to me how we can't see it, even with the review process of these policies. We've got such a long way to go. But as in the words of the late Congressman John Lewis, we won't grow weary in doing good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, that brings us to the end of our public testimony. Normally oh, perfect, he was. He is welcome to come up and join us. Thank you for that. This is Mr. Daryl Mitchell. He was our first person on our signed up list, and he will come up and have 3 minutes.
Can I mash down or?
No, keep him up.
I have the same mash, by the way.
Outstanding choice. 3 minutes, your floor is yours.
According to the Webster Dictionary, the word educate implies to provide schooling for, to develop mentally, morally, or aesthetically, especially by instruction, to provide with information. Also, the word educate implies to persuade or condition to feel, believe, think, and or act in a certain way. The etymology of the word educate is derived from the Latin term educere, which means to draw out or to lead forth. In action, what is actively happening in our day-to-day education, whether it be at home, at school, or at work, is essentially the challenging of the brain's capacity to gather and obtain knowledge as information. And with this accumulation of knowledge, one is tested in a relationship to see if the knowledge has been effectively memorized and or comprehended. The effectiveness of said education is dependent on a measurement that is dictated by being rewarded or by being punished. If you do what you're told, you are rewarded. If you do not, you are punished. And all of this is implied in our current education as we know it today. The outcome of said education is our daily life as an entire species. As I observe our daily life on Earth, it is rather clear that there is something critical that is missing in this process of education. We have advanced technology that could end war, world hunger, homelessness, and so on. Also, we have an immense array of information at our very fingertips, and yet our relationships with one another in the environment is subtly and or profoundly disturbing. Furthermore, the continuous struggle and the effort to accumulate knowledge has burdened and dulled the human brain. And the outcome of this burden has led to an utterly mechanical and repetitive way of living. So what is the critical aspect that is missing in our education all throughout the world? As one asks this question presently, it is abundantly clear that what is missing in our education is our capacity to question, to inquire, to investigate. Nowhere in our present education does there exist an actual space and time to seriously question why we're being educated at all. Nowhere in our education as human beings do we actively question the facts of our daily affairs, the cause to why we're living in such a way. We do not question because the challenge is never presented to us in our current mode of education, or the challenge is only geared towards the accumulation of knowledge. And thus it is obvious to me that we as educators and students alike must revitalize this capacity to actually question what is happening. Not only what is happening in the world, but what is happening within ourselves as individuals. We must create a class of study within our education that challenges us to actually discover what it means to inquire into the nature of our existence. We must develop a different capacity of learning that's independent of the process of accumulation of knowledge, and a capacity that is independent of reward and punishment. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see for a minute. We do have a speaker that called in who was not previously on. It is speaker number 8, which should round up our list this time, Mr. Daniel Kemp. Yeah, Mr. Kemp, if you could star 6 to unmute.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you have 3 minutes and the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you to the board for having me this evening. My name is Danielle Kemp. I am I'm a retired Army combat officer. I am a teacher here in the ASD. I teach music. I'm also a parent of 2 ASD students, as well as the co-chair of the Anchorage Education Association's Human and Civil Rights Committee, as well as member of the NAACP and the newly formed Alaska Coalition of BIPOC Educators, where I am one of the founders and the president of that organization. I'm calling in tonight to support the anti-racism policy and instructional equity policy wholeheartedly. And I have to voice a little bit of frustration tonight as well. Not frustration in hearing some of the callers that can't call in tonight. I must say, I understand about some of their frustrations, but I think a lot of the folks' frustrations with this anti-racism policy is not grounded in, how shall I put it? Not grounded in fact. All right, and that's what we need to deal with. I know there was a recommendation from somebody who was opposing this policy to read a lot of the books that were on the Equal Opportunity website for the ASD. I would highly recommend reading those books as well. They will be very insightful to all folks here. But one thing that definitely troubles me is my concern with the amount of feedback that this board has gotten from the proposed policies. Not really the amount of feedback, but where they've gotten the feedback from. Because I can tell you right now, the board as a whole has not approached. I don't think they've approached Native Alaskan communities. I don't think they've approached Latinx communities. Certainly haven't approached the NAACP. Maybe not the Alaska Black Caucus. Definitely not my organization. We represent BIPOC educators, for feedback. And we are the folks who are most negatively impacted by racism and inequity.
Mr. Kemp?
We don't get feedback. So please, if you're going to propose, if you're going to criticize an anti-racism policy, please get feedback from those.
Thank you. All right. Now we had everybody on our list have an opportunity. Thank you. Normally we have written public testimony. Today we do not. So the next item up in our agenda is our superintendent update. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President. And Mike Fleckenstein will cue it up. Very short, brief update. Wanted to just share with the board basically about secondary start and just an update on the school start after spring break. A little bit about graduations and summer school. Again, very brief and end with a good thing. I just shared some photos that Dr. Kirsten Johnson sent. We had staff out, of course, and Eagle River High School. They had continued to have good things like freshman orientation, and West High School had a nice big welcome sign back for their seniors, and Diamond High teachers welcoming kids outside, as well as there's just a couple of gals here super excited to go to school in middle school. And it was just overall a really great day. Again, for secondary, Monday was an orientation day, and kids were excited and things went very smoothly. Kids participated in school tours, engagement activities, learned new school procedures, and got to know their fourth quarter teachers. Generally, this happens in August. Tuesday, all students returned. That's today, and it went smoothly. The students today joined their 6th and 7th or 9th grade peers and face-to-face in schools. And again, at the secondary level, we have about 70% of people choosing to come back. And in elementary school, it's moving up towards 90%. The focus today was really truly incorporating new school procedures with all students and getting back in-person instruction, getting those routines down. Equally excited were the staff as well as the students. In elementary school, we continued with face-to-face. That started in January, and the return also made for an exciting Monday. Schools are putting in place, just so you know, additional mitigation practices to bring back events and co-curriculars at their level. Even simple things like picture day have to be rethought out, book fairs in the libraries and clubs and things like that. But they're working on those to bring those back so kids have the experiences of those this year. And I do want to give a shout out to our special education department as well as our special education teachers. And this of any group of teachers is asked to really meet the needs of their students in any general year, but this year it's especially true. Noted is the fact that really our special education teachers are really working at the same time in 4 different formats. Special education teachers, and it could be the same teacher, is meeting an in-school need, a hybrid Zoom need, a correspondence need of students with IEPs, as well as a ASD virtual need. And so I wanted to make that note and give a shout out to our special education teachers, as well as the whole department, really holding things together and making it work to allow that choice for families in what they feel safe doing. So appreciation to those educators. In a little bit of graduation update, more to come, but please know that our graduations will be set on the football fields at our large schools, and that our smaller schools will either have them on football fields or other venues. They will all be outside. The board will receive a list for graduation signups. We did have one change in a date, which is a Thursday because it was a religiously significant holiday. But rain or shine, graduations will take place outside. So this is a little different. And really, many Alaskans aren't afraid of the rain. It's when it's rainy and windy that we, sometimes don't like that. But if we can fish, we can have our graduations. Tickets will be limited based on the stadium capacity for social distancing. And tickets will be given out to each graduate to be able to disperse him or herself. All ceremonies will be live streamed through YouTube and on ASD website, and ceremonies, of course, will be recorded like every other year. It's a little bit more difficult because the resources of our contractors are dispersed now rather than being in one big and having the boom camera. We're working with them early to get that set up. And then one of the features that we're taking from last year, ASD purchasing yard signs for all the kids to put everywhere. That was a hit last year, so a new one was designed, and that just might stay with us throughout. Briefly, Mark is going to just share an update on summer school, and then I'll finish with good things.
Thank you, Dr. Stock. Our academic teams are deep into
Correction. Did you say thank you, Dr. Stock?
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, that was bad.
No, that was...
We'll chalk that up to a senior moment.
No. I just want to say thank you, Dr. Stock.
Oh, that was crazy. Well, we are deep into the initial planning for the most ambitious summer school programming that we have ever had. We have multiple site locations being vetted right now and narrowed down. And at this time, we're working around everything from summer work projects to roofing projects and all those things, geography, transportation, trying to get the right spots. That's underway right now. We have some initial staff surveys out. Secondary sent theirs, elementary's coming out soon, to gauge teacher interest. This is one of the risks to our summer programming, is trying to determine how many teachers will be interested in teaching in the summer school when it's been such a challenging year. So we have some surveys out just to gauge interest, and that will help us determine how large our summer school can get. Once we know the appropriate levels of staffing available, then we will be working on invitations that will be sent out to parents and students. We'll begin at those, especially at the elementary level, with invitations, and those will be based on some student grades and needs that come from skill assessments. And once we've identified those and we've looked at available slots, we'll be sure to open up to other parents and people who are interested. We just want to make sure that those who need it the most get a shot at having a summer school experience. There's going to be 2 major summer sessions. We'll do a session 1 from June 2 until June 30, and then we'll run a second session that parents can pick from, which would run from July 2nd through August 6th. Now, the elementary, they'll design a what we'll call a skill development approach with engaging activities. They'll have an arts focus on the first one and a sports activities focus on the second session. And the goal there is to provide engaging activities that students will have some fun to look forward to, as well as those skill pieces. Middle school is going to work on grade improvement, primarily for those who had incompletes. And they will also combine some art and PE activities to provide engagement, activities that students have not been able to access throughout the year in face-to-face. Secondary, of course, will run their original credit and credit recovery, and they'll also run face-to-face courses that will also combine engagement and content that's face-to-face, along with some of those computer and Apex-based things. But be sure to make sure that there's face-to-face content-based engagement there as well. April 1st is our planned communication date where the public will see the overall structure. We'll be putting out those dates and some general information about how summer programming will look, and that won't come out till April. And then by mid-May, we'll confirm the number of seats available and confirm our student enrollment. At that point, then, further information, specifics will come directly from sites to parents. So I also want to mention that our normal extended school year for special ed, our normal migrant programs, our ELL programs, Indian Ed programs, Title I programs have all run programming, and some of those will continue to exist independently on site, and some of those will be rolled into and combined at these sites as well. We're working through those details now. So that pretty much concludes it. More information will be coming forward as soon as the planning starts to take final steps.
Thank you so much. And another good thing that I'm just going to move into now is the published document and published works of a book called The Nest Egg, and it's actually our 3rd grade social studies little basil, if you will, or a resource book. It was designed right here by a project team in the Anchorage School District, because we did not have any materials in Alaska published for this grade level to use for Alaska studies. It talks about the regions, the heritage, the cultures, all about the regions around Alaska. It's highly accurate. That was one of over the last 2 years of research. The team, I call them the Fab Five, who put this together, are Dr. Bellamy, Doreen Brown, Andrea Johannes for PMO, Jennifer Romer, our social studies coordinator, and Nicole Sinishgali, and she's the materials manager. But this is an amazing, amazing textbook that we get to use in our classrooms. And one day I hope that we can sell it to other districts to be able to, and this was Ms. Brown's idea, to collect the money and put it in a field trip so that kids in 3rd grade can go to the Alaska Heritage Center to see it. But it is just an awesome project in collaboration. right out here in ASD, the very first book made for children to study Alaska history. So hopefully it'll be in all of our kids' hands. So we're highly proud of that, and especially it's no doubt from the testimony this evening that really what we're embarking on with equity and anti-racism is complex and deeply rooted subject, not only in our school district, in our state, but in our country and world. And as educators, we had a speaker tonight that really shared about, educare and educere. They're both words that talk about to draw out knowledge and that understanding. And if reading and learning about something that you don't know about and maybe haven't experienced isn't a part of that, I don't know what is. And so we do have on our website information for in-school use, for parents if you want to talk to kids, but there's a section called self-understanding, and it does have textbooks that were mentioned this evening. It's all under the target of promoting equity. And this will be a journey for our school district. And the best thing about it is that we do have the freedom to speak how we think, and the freedom to write about it, and the freedom to learn. And I'm fortunate, I feel, to be in a position to allow that to happen and broaden understanding of everyone. And this book will help us as well. So on that note, finally, the last good thing is a video that we did not make, but it was shared with us. If we could just take, even if you needed a break, just to take a look at it. The Campfire made it because they were just very impressed with a partnership that really one of our principals reached out and saw a need in her neighborhood at the beginning of the pandemic in August, and United Way assisted in funding it. But it's just a good story that they are sharing out in the community. So I thought the board would be interested to see it first. So again, this wasn't made by ASD, just shared with ASD.
So it was this August when school was set to resume in person but remained virtual that the principal at one of our Title I schools reached out to Barb, our CEO, and said, "Is there any way Campfire can support our families?" And it was that moment that Megan, principal at Chester Valley, really helped launch this vision, bringing in United Way and the Anchorage School District and Campfire leadership just to talk about what the need was, how we could maybe help fill that gap and fill that need. We had kids that had zero contact with the school, their classmates, for 6 months. We started with Chester Valley, just one site, one location, 20 youth. Since November, we've been able to run 3 learning pod programs. Really, when you talk about a whole child model of taking care of a community and a family, it's the Anchorage School District and Campfire in partnership leaning in and doing that together.
We are not just helping kids academically, we are also helping them emotionally. What the learning pods accomplished was just, we stopped that academic loss that was happening, but also we was able to help kids emotionally by providing them a sense of norm, like how to be a kid, and bringing an aspect of normalcy back into their lives. We knew that the parents we were trying to serve, these were parents who had 2 jobs, or some guardians who couldn't afford it. And so we decided to make a conscious effort to remove all barriers. It was important for us to make the program free. We had to make a decision what was best for, not just for Campfire, but what was best for those parents.
And as they go on, this is about a learning pod. And so she knew that there were families around our city that could set up learning pods. And she worked with Campfire to set up a learning pod.
To help educate the kids while everything was shut down. And I appreciated that. We got packets of work that they gave us, and then things she could do on her computer too. She loved it. Every time she got in the car, she would tell me how fun it was. And Daddy, I like Campfire, it helps. It affords me to be able to work. And then their Campfire is so flexible with the morning program and then the afternoon program. And that's very, very helpful, especially being a single parent.
It was fun.
Her reading has improved too, significantly.
It was it felt like a really dark time because we had so many of our children unable to access their education at all. There's so many barriers around.
This is Megan's second year in our district.
That we had no control over. But we knew they were out there, and that just weighed on our heart. It was really, really hard to have that awareness that there were families and kids that really needed you, but you could not reach them. So when we put together this idea that someone could rent our building, bring the children in, and we could hook them up with Chromebooks, and get them attached to their teachers, and see them, and give them love. Who could we find that would love our children like we do?
It's on our computers, but not on the... That's not. That's the actual...
Well, we can just end here. And I want you to know we'll have this on our website, but it's a really lovely film done by our partners, thanking us, thanking Chester Valley for the idea to serve community, thanking United Way for funding this. And it was just exceptional. And I thought it would just be fun to show you that. So thank you. And you might see it out in the community because Campfire is just sharing their gratitude with others about ASD. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bishop. Are there any board members that have questions about anything that Dr. Bishop talked about tonight? Member Donnelly?
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Bishop, I am very concerned about the publications that have been posted on our Office of Equity and Compliance site. We have a board policy, 6144, controversial issues. And while it is targeted towards classrooms, I think it ought to be what the school district complies with in its administrative actions also. It states the discussion of controversial issues in the classroom shall be conducted in an unprejudiced and dispassionate manner. Teachers and or guest speakers shall not use their position or influence on students to forward their own religious, political, economic, or social views. And unfortunately, the publications that have been put on the site for the public, recommended to the public as self-educating, are incredibly biased and one-sided, and there's no balance to it. There's nothing from the other side. There's no academic criticism of those books. Since none appears on the website, I'd say take a look at what Columbia professor John McWhorter wrote about D'Angelo's white fragility. He said, I have learned that one of America's favorite advice books of the moment is actually a racist tract. The book diminishes Black people in the name of dignifying us. He goes on to say, D'Angelo's book is replete with claims that are either plain wrong or bizarrely disconnected from reality. The problem with white fragility is that it's a prayer book for what can only be described as a cult. Columbia is not some hotbed of radical conservative thought. And I agree with Professor McWhorter. It's very concerning, the things that are in these books. Now, if we're going to have these things on our website, which actually I think they clearly violate our policy by some of the statements that are in there, and they're very partisan also. There's repeated attacks on one political party or politicians of one political party. So there's no balance whatsoever. So that makes these books partisan. And yet we have them on our taxpayer paid for website. And if we're going to have that, we should have the other side represented also. We should have criticism like Professor McWhorter's Other criticism is it's all over the place about these two publications and how faulty they are and how the logic is so horrible in them. They redefine basic understanding of concepts and then twist them in a way that tries to make Americans hate each other. It's really despicable, I think. And if we're going to have them, we should have the other side presented, at least the criticism, the scholarly criticism of them. And we should also have a disclaimer on the website that this is not what this school district believes in. In How to Be an Anti-Racist, the author equates white Klansmen and white nationalist shooters with people who supported President Trump and Tea Party Republicans. No, that's just not right. That's exactly what the book says. In White Fragility, it speaks to the president's comments as being supportive of neo-Nazis. And I don't think that's at all accurate. What was said there was vastly misrepresented by the press. But either way, whether you agree with that or not, to not have some counterbalance to those things on the website is clearly inappropriate for an educational institution. And it would be maybe more acceptable if the books in any way were critical, of both parties or some sort of general criticism, but they're not. They're very specific in their partisanship. It's just super concerning. I'm shocked. I spent a lot of time reading these two books. These are the spots where I had concerns with the statements that were made. So I don't understand how they could appear on our website without even a disclaimer or any attempt to have a balanced approach offered. That's my question.
Through the president to Member John Lee, you emailed me all those things and I responded. And the board policy is clearly written for students and it says students. And so the information is, I said that I would take that back to our team and bring your thoughts to discuss it with our team. And I'll have Sonia Hunt, our Senior Director of Equity and Compliance, to come forward. But again, when we share books, whether it's in our library, on our website, I love that you marked up all those books, that you are utilizing what we are allowed to do as an education institution to learn about something else and to question it. And part of our courses are actually to learn about something else that we don't maybe know about and to be able to question it and to have dialogue and have discussion. By listing a book or having a book in our libraries or shared that, I would say that this is a resource for self-understanding. I, as a public institution, I don't think that that's bad. It is not in our curriculum to teach kids anything about those books. That is for self-understanding, for the adults, and anyone really who wants to read that. But I agree with you that if it was curriculum, we have a curriculum process for approved curriculum. And those are not curriculum items. They are simply books that, when I shared, I was, looking into your concern and I Googled books that teach me about equity, and some of the names came up. Books that teach me about racism, some things came up. Books that teach me about anti-racism, names came up, as well as other universities that had very similar. So I understand your point. The purpose was not to, find fault with a particular party. Simply, to me, a book is a resource that we can learn. And so your thoughts and your concerns, I shared that we'll take them back and keep them aligned. We're looking at how do we share adult professional development, because it is choice. This course is certainly choice. It's certainly a choice to read a book or not. It's not mandated. Again, it's not curriculum. And so I've asked Sonia if you could come forward and just share the process there. There's parent toolkits that come from just different pieces of information from Council of Great City Schools and other places. So I'll turn it over to Sonia, and hopefully that can answer. And then again, what we can't answer, we're bringing back to look into to be able to respond to you in an appropriate way.
Good evening to the president, to Member Donnelly. So I want to start by just sharing kind of like what led to the book study. It was, there were inequities being highlighted by the pandemic of COVID-19. After the killings of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, there was a request of staff to really have a book study to discuss with their peers the events that were happening across the globe, but particularly in our country. They saw it as a right time to really to tool themselves to deal with all of our students, but in particularly the 60% of our students that are of color, and to familiarize themselves with the experiences of the various group, right? So at the response of that, we developed a book study using the 2 books that were recommended by staff members. They are two popular books. And again, with any books, they're written by 2 research scholars on race, and they share their own story. And I just think through just even a humanistic approach, I have to accept the stories of other people, right? And use it as a tool to really gain a mind's eye of the experience of our students. And in saying that, so we started the book study, it's voluntary, and staff responded overwhelmingly to it. As a matter of fact, we will have our 3rd iteration of the book study coming up. In How to Be an Anti-Racist, for example, Kendi shares his personal experience as an African-American boy matriculating through public school. He does share some theorists that I'm sure may align with his research, as many textbooks do. I want to say also that these books are being used in institutions of higher ed, and they're being used from neighborhood book clubs to institutions of higher ed. And so I like that these books are actually starting this dialogue, because I think this is critical dialogue that we need to have in serving students and in serving our staff.
And through the president, to your point, Mr. Donnelly, it's going to be valuable to read things that are absolutely on the opposite end. And then our educators will understand all that's coming to us in all of our kids and from all of our community, to understand these are our classrooms of kids and all these different things are going on. So how do we as really to have kids question and learn and open their minds, like the gentleman said this morning, I think that's valued. But to me, to remove something because it's controversial, probably, I think in public education for the adults to learn, I think it's valuable to understand the whole picture. So we're moving that way.
And if I'm sorry.
So if the goal was to educate people, why is there absolutely zero balance on what's presented on our website? There's no critical analysis of these textbooks, you called them. They're the farthest thing from a textbook I've ever read in my life. They're a collection of personal stories with radical redefinitions, Orwellian in nature, of a common language to present a distorted presentation of historical facts, and then to make outrageous, damaging to our society statements such as all white people are racist, that Republicans are somehow comparable to neo-Nazis. And it's, if you're going to put something that up, why wouldn't you put anything from the other side up? If that was your true intent.
I've got other board members with questions as well at this point. So I don't know if you'd mind if I might. Member Bellamy.
Madam President, this is not on our agenda, number one. Number two, if Mr. Donnelly would like to have a work session that he would like to discuss this in detail, I would like to suggest that we do that. And the final thing is, to equate one's journey in race or with whatever their journey is, with it being a political agenda, is highly offensive. And I think it's very unfair. But the point of order is that we move this to a work session and not do it here.
Madam President, this was raised in the superintendent's report. This is the time to talk about the superintendent's report. And this matter was raised by the superintendent's report.
All right, but what I'm also seeing is a bigger conversation. And we do have, an agenda and things to move on to. I would highly take, Member Bellamy's, suggestion, and we can work it into our planning to do this at a work session. It's not to tamp down the conversation, it's to have it, but it doesn't have, when we have an agenda, this is a good time to.
I just want to say that I 100% agree with Member Bellamy that this is highly offensive, but I'm not the one that said it. Okay. It's the authors of these books that said these things.
All right. So,
and there's no counterbalance on the website. Nothing.
Mr. Donnelly, we're going to
offer a balance of opinion.
Mr. Donnelly, we're going to schedule a work session. And I do think that will be good. And we'll have our time to have the open discussion in a little less format than the Robert's Rules part, because right now it's not as balanced for Robert. Thank you for coming up. I look forward to continuing that part of the conversation. I had my hand raised because I had a question about summer school.
Yeah, no, sure.
Because that was a part. And it's just two questions. And I'm looking forward to the update, for parents and stuff like that. We have 3 kids. Do we know when you talk about 2 sessions, do you have to pick one or can you do both depending on your students' needs and grades?
To the president, it really at this point in time is going to be based off of that need, and it might be both. It might be just one or the other, but certainly flexibility for families. We do understand that fish camp happens during the same time. Some other things might happen later on. So we wanted to offer 2 sessions simply to meet families' needs. But certainly space available, we just want to offer kids courses. So we'll have more information on that. And again, the need part about students' need and our ability to staff is going to have those are the 2 critical components of what we can do and the amount. So, but yes yes if it's possible. Yes.
Thank you. Next up in the queue, I see Member Hildy.
Thank you. And I know you're going to come out with more summer school, but it's just exciting. Is it going to be full day and going to be going, and is it a chance where even kids who are doing okay, but maybe didn't get to where we wanted them to? I mean, how robust are we hoping, striving for? And then I just saw that Chicago study saying that they brought in just regular tutors, not teachers even, but they had really 1.5-year growth with just tutors coming in at very low ratios. Is that part of the considerations?
Through the president to Member Hildy, the 2 sessions are going to be 2 separate sessions, but there are families that could do both sessions, so morning and afternoon, and more detail because some of them are geared towards reading, some of them are geared towards other constructs. So they'll have that settled once they know. And again, we want, as Dr. Stock said, is to just make this, and the first target was 25% of the population. What if we could meet that need? What would that look like? And again, it's based off of staffing. We have had success with trained TAs that are trained and developed, especially in reading, in other subjects to really teach courses. So we're going to utilize really the manpower that we can to make an impact. And what we're calling it is that unfinished learning. We had kids out a long time and it was difficult. So we're calling it not failing or incompletes, but we had some unfinished learning that we need to finish. So we're going to try to make it as large as possible. And right now, other than that, they really to publicly share it and then not be able to deliver, we're hoping. So we really need that teacher survey to go out first to know how expansive it could be. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other hands in the queue. Thank you, Dr. Bishop, for that update. Next up is our consent agenda. And Vice President Bellamy, if you would kick it off.
Yes, Madam President. I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of regular session minutes for February 2nd, 2021, the personnel report, which is memorandum number 8088, the award for the award of custodial supplies, that's a term contract, that's ASD memorandum number 089, and the award of contract bulk petroleum oils and lubricants, ASD memorandum number 094.
Second. I have a first and a second. Did anybody have any questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, Katie, if you could please do a roll call vote.
Member Mitchell, are you able to?
I think I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. I'm a yes.
Thank you. Member Marset?
Yes.
Member Holloman?
Yes.
Member Hildy?
Yes.
Member Donnelly?
Yes.
Vice President Bellamy?
Yes.
And President Michaelis?
Yes. The consent agenda passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Next up is our action items. I do not have any public testimony signed up. We have 2 items. Madam Vice President, if you would.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 095, changes to exempt employees' compensation for the period between July 1st, 2020 and June 30th, 2023.
Second. I have a first and a second. Do any board members have any questions on ASD memorandum 095? Seeing none, Katie, if you could please do a roll call vote.
And Emily?
Yes.
Member Donnelly?
No.
Member Hildy?
Yes.
Member Marset?
Yes.
Vice President Bellamy?
Yes.
Member Mitchell?
Yes.
Member Holloman?
Yes.
And President Michaelis?
Yes. ASD memorandum 095 passes with 6 yeas and 1 nay. Next up, please.
I move to approve attachment A of ASD memorandum number 101 as an addendum to the employment agreement between the Anchorage School Board and Dr. Dina Bishop for the period July 1st, 2019 through July 1st, 2022.
I have a first and a second. Are there any board member comments or questions on ASD memorandum number 101? Member Marset?
I just want to state, even as I'm leaving this board, what a pleasure it is to have had Dr. Bishop, well, continue to have Dr. Bishop as our superintendent. These have been trying times that I don't think anyone has had experience with them moving forward. And her and her staff have just done an outstanding job of moving this district forward in such a difficult time. And so I just want to say how happy I am that we've been able to keep her and continue to keep her. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, Katie, if you could please do a roll call vote.
Member Bellamy?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Member Hildy?
Yes.
Member Marset?
Yes.
Member Donnelly?
No.
Member Holloman?
Yes.
Member Mitchell?
Yes.
And Member Holloman just reminded me, and I'm so sorry, Emily, I forgot to get the student vote. May I please have your voice vote?
Yes.
Thank you, and thank you, Member Holloman. President Michaelis?
Yes. And ASD memorandum number 101 passes with 6 yeas and 1 nay. Moving on in the agenda to our non-action items, are there any items that board members wish to pull for discussion tonight? Not seeing any. We do not have anybody else signed up for our second public testimony, and that brings us to school board and administration comments. Did anybody have any final thoughts that they wish to share for the end of the evening? And Dr. Bishop, you're up.
Madam President, Board, thank you very much. I appreciate the vote of confidence. And Member Marcet, thank you for your kind words. It's been a joy to work with you. My respect is in concert with yours. Thank you.
Member Mitchell.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what Dr. Bishop said. So far, what I've been hearing from people is that the secondary students are really excited to be back to school. There was a lot of nervousness, but they're happy to be back with their friends. And I'm just very pleased that our numbers continue to decline and that our kids are back in school and that our teachers and staff are getting vaccinated. So thank you to the administration and our principals and our teachers and our staff and everybody and our students for coming together after this very, very, very long time. And I'm glad everybody's where they really need to be at this point. So thank you.
Member Marcet.
I just want to say that I spoke to my grandson today, and he just, he went back early, but he's just overjoyed. He said things are different now that all the students are back, and has just been very happy with the turnout. Had no complaints as a student anyway. And I just think about where we were way back when we were trying to get students back into school and get school started back up, and how much collaboration and how much effort this has taken on so many individuals. And I can only commend and thank everyone for their pursuit and getting our kids back into school. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Member Bellamy.
Thank you. I just wanted to chime in. When we go back a year, so much has happened. And this board has had the pleasure to work with the staff that never gave up. They never lost sight of what was important. And even when we didn't get all of the pieces, we didn't see the whole picture, and we pressed, they stayed focused. I've learned a lot this year, and it's not just dealing with COVID. It's about how to value the work of others and how we can come together as a community and as a team and just make great things happen for kids, because that's what it's all about. So thank you is just not big enough, but I just want all of us to know that despite our differences, we came together for the kids in this community. And you can like it or lump it, we are going to keep pushing forward for what's good for kids. So thank you, because I can't find another word right now, but thank you, thank you, thank you.
So like many others, in the room and listening, a couple of my kids went back to school, and my 7th grader just thought middle school was really cool. He was just so super excited. A little bummed he doesn't have the whole laughter experience, but we understand it. And as much as I want for all of our kids across the district that learning is their focus when they go back, I had to take a step back this afternoon with my daughter, and she said, it was good, but I have to get used to people again, because when you're in your bubble, all of a sudden it's SEL. And so I have to give everybody grace as we're going through all of this, and just so happy that it's happening. So thank you to everybody, to echo the comments being said tonight. Looking forward to, all of this. Looking forward to graduation. It's so exciting. So thank you to everybody. And I do see, Member Marcet, you got your hand up one more time?
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention something. I just want to put a shout out to Whaley. I've worked with that school for many years, and they, along with our other schools in our SPED community, have had challenges. But I think until I volunteered at Mount I for substitute at Mount I for several years. And with the pandemic, it just created new challenges that were probably a little different from general ed. And the leadership in that school and the teachers there, I can't say enough for what they've done for these kids that need so much and have lost so much. And so I just wanted to put a shout out to Whaley. I wanted to thank them.
Thank you. So just want to put out a couple of dates for folks. We actually don't meet as a board until, barring any emergencies, until April 6th, which happens to be election day. Ballots are dropped in the mail yesterday. Everybody watch for them. We all know the importance of elections. Watch for it, vote, get them in, please. We have a couple of things coming up between now and our next meeting. We have 2 town halls coming up to talk specifically about our anti-racism and our instructional equity policy. We've tried to balance it between day and night. So on the 25th, from noon to 1, we have a town hall. And we also have one in the evening on March 30th, from, I believe, 6 to 8 or, somewhere right in there. So hoping folks will, join in and be a part of the conversation and give feedback and ask questions, because that's what these town halls are for, is to bring on more of that two-way conversation, that we need between us, and the administration and the community and our families and our parents. So those are just a couple of the key dates, coming up as we go forward. Member Bellamy?
And along the same lines, I'd just like to Along the same lines, I'd just like to share that we are also meeting with MECAC. We're meeting with the Native Advisory Committee, and we're meeting with all of our ELL families this week. And we're hoping that we will get input, and then we will also be inviting those groups to also join the town halls.
Exactly. And this week, as Emily mentioned, I'll visit with our student advisory board, and we've got SEAC also. So going to have some good conversations with the community. Looking forward to it.
And I may regret saying this, but if there are other groups out there that would like to have a conversation, that's what it is. It's a conversation. So please reach out to our board for that. Thank you.
So just want to put those dates out there for folks, and happy first and second day of school for everybody, and have a wonderful night. Everybody drive home safely. Member Donnelly, last hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to take the opportunity to read a couple of the lines from this book that's on our district website, How to Be an Anti-Racist. Page 19 holds these gems. If discrimination is creating equity, then it is anti-racist. The only remedy of past discrimination is present discrimination. In other words, the only solution to the problem of racism is to discriminate based on race. These are very troubling concepts. They go as far as to say that if a white or an Asian child is bullied or criticized because of their race, that's not racism because they're white or Asian. That's what the book actually says. So I am not asking for books to be banned. I'm asking for fairness. I'm asking for what we in law would call equal treatment under the law. And that's that if we're going to have biased statements like these on our website, which is a taxpayer-funded website, we need to have balance. We need to have the other side to these arguments. And we need scholarly, literary criticism of these documents, of these things, because they are not textbooks. These have not been vetted by any kind of intellectual process. These are pop culture that's very dangerous and offers some very troubling and disturbing concepts. And they should not be placed on our website without any disclaimer
that this is not ASD policy. We as board members, we can't say anything in public without saying we're not speaking on behalf of the school district. But we can have books like these on our website with no disclaimer that this isn't ASD, isn't endorsing these. It ought to be the minimum we have for these books to be on our website. And there ought to be a fair balance.
So looking forward to scheduling a work session. Member Hildy.
I'd just like to say, I look forward to a balance where we focus on reading and math and life, college, and career readiness for this board in our meetings. Look forward to going forward that is our board's focus and what we structure our meetings around. Thanks.
Everybody have a fantastic night. Thank you so much for joining us.